Good afternoon, everyone. I'm François Carrel-Billiard, Managing Director of the International Peace Institute, and I'm delighted to welcome you on a conversation on the foreign policy of the European Union. We are very happy to have with us Miroslav Lajčák, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Slovakia. Minister Lajčák is in New York for the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of Slovakia's membership to the United Nations. We're delighted to congratulate him on his delegation on this occasion, and I would like also to congratulate the representative of the Czech Republic who are with us today and who are also commemorating their 20 years of UN membership. Minister Lajčák will speak about the EU regional and global responsibilities. These are topics on which he can offer a remarkable first-hand experience. Before starting his current second term as Foreign Minister of Slovakia, Mr. Lajčák was Managing Director for Europe and Central Asia in the European External Action Service. He was also High Representative and EU Representative in Sarajevo in 2007-2009. In 2006, he was Javier Solana's personal representative to facilitate the referendum on the independence of Montenegro. Before that, Mr. Lajčák served as ambassador to Yugoslavia, to Albania, and to the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. And also he was an assistant to the UN Special Envoy for the Balkans. But Mr. Lajčák also has a keen interest in regions beyond the immediate proximity of the EU. He was ambassador to Japan, and he also served in Russia. And he was Director General for Political Affairs at a time when Slovakia was a member of the UN Security Council. So we are very much looking forward to listening to his views on the EU's regional and global responsibility and on how Slovakia can share its own experience with EU's partners. Minister Lajčák will make an opening presentation, and we will then have a Q&A session. Let me remind you that this discussion is on the record and is being webcast. Please join me in welcoming Miroslav Lajčák.
It's an honor for me to be here, and I came to New York in my national capacity to commemorate 20 years of our membership in the United Nations, and this year is a special year for my country, for Slovakia, 20 years of our independent existence, which is also time for reflection of what has been achieved. But I don't want to speak much about Slovakia. I would rather speak about the European Union, because the modern history of Slovakia has been very closely linked, inseparably linked with the European Union. From the very first day of our independent existence, membership in the European Union has been our strategic goal, and we spent years to fulfill this goal. 2004, we've joined the European Union, and we did not stop our effort. We went on to become members of the Schengen zone in 2007, and then to join the Eurozone in 2009. And of course, the European agenda is extremely present in everything we do. I even insisted on changing the name of my ministry from the Foreign Ministry into the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs since October last year, just to demonstrate that the European agenda is different from the foreign policy for a member state of the European Union. And European agenda is something that really consumes and absorbs most of our time and capacities, and has a huge impact on our people. We talk about Europe, we deal with Europe, but it's always interesting to speak about the European Union outside of the European Union and to hear what other people think about how European Union performs. And as you heard, I also have my personal experience from representing the European Union in the world, and therefore this agenda is very close to my heart. And well, it's no secret that these days whoever speaks about European Union, or when we read articles about European Union, they are mostly critical, and they are dealing with the crisis we are facing. And the fact is that European Union was caught unprepared by the crisis for several reasons. First, there was lack of responsibility by several member states who in conducting their economic financial policies, and that resulted in crisis that became a European problem. Second, the EU was not equipped with instruments to deal with this situation. It's impossible to have one monetary policy for 17 countries, but 17 separate fiscal policies, for example. We somehow believe that everything will be done bona fide, and we were caught unprepared with this situation. And the third reason was that even in cases we did have instruments, we did not respect them. There was an instrument called Jobs and Growth Pact, which was violated 60 times without any repercussions, without any consequences. So this all resulted in an economic financial crisis, and European Union has to deal with two challenges at the same time: to fix the imminent problems, and at the same time to make sure that they will not be repeated in the future. And I believe that we are now on a good track out of the crisis. Situation is far from being rosy, but we have the necessary instruments. We have strengthened the competencies of European institutions. We are ready to go and to take European integration much further, particularly in the fiscal area and the banking area. It's not necessary. I'm sorry, it is necessary. It was impossible to avoid it. Because this is an issue of the future of the European Union as a global player, as a competitive player. But the good thing is that a year ago, the media were full of speculations about future of Europe, future of euro. It's no longer here. No one questions the survival of euro as our common currency. And all the indicators, at least this is what people who understand economy and financial world are saying, is that all indicators signalize that the second half of this year is already the one that shall bring improvement of our figures. In case of my country, we shall have economic growth around 0.8% this year, but close to 3% next year, which is a confirmation of these facts. So there is no reason to be worried about the future of the European Union. And European Union is now focused not on imminent threats, but it's rather tackling the issues such as tax fraud and tax evasions, completion of European Union's internal market, creating integrated energy market in the European Union, and of course promoting the liberalization of the world trade, the world economy. Here the transatlantic trade and investment partnership is going to play a pivotal role in this. But as you see, these are no longer the imminent issues to be solved, but this is an investment for the successful future. We must not forget about an issue or problem that is called democratic legitimacy, which means that there are moments when we may believe that the European Union went too far from its citizens, and the decisions made by our leaders and by European institutions in Brussels are difficult to be understood by our people. And it's really important to reflect on this, to make sure that whatever we do is understood and supported by our citizens, because no matter how clever our policies could be, as long as our citizens are unable to follow what we do and to understand and to support, we have no chance to succeed. So democratic legitimacy of everything that is being done is a very important element of the current European discussions. But once again, don't worry about the future of the European Union. We know that what needs to be done. European Union, with all the problems, is still the largest world economy in terms of GDP. It's the largest donor. It's the major and largest provider of development aid and humanitarian assistance. But the European Union is also very significant and important contributor to the global security. It spends almost 200 billion euro a year on defense, which is more than Canada, Japan, and Russia together. Has over the last 2 decades engaged in more than 30 peacekeeping missions. 17 of them are still ongoing. And the European Union has also responded to the calls for greater efficiency and more comprehensible structure with the Lisbon Treaty and with all the changes. And here I want to mention the creation of the European Union's foreign service called External Action Service, which gives the famous one phone number for the EU foreign policy chief, and also gives clarity about the structure, about who is responsible for what, and our partners from outside of the European Union know whom to turn to when dealing with particular concrete issues. What is very strong and what has never been lost in case of European Union is, of course, the uniqueness of what is called the EU soft power, which is the attractiveness of the EU's model that generates the wish to follow the model, the ability to lead by example, and the ability to inspire. And this is the very powerful yet peaceful weapon that European Union is using and will continue using, because it's really unique. European Union is a global standard setter. European Union is perceived by most of the countries, and in most of the cases, as an honest broker, impartial player, who does care about principles of democracy, rule of law, protection, promotion of human rights. European Union's model is a model of peace, and decision-making mechanism in the European Union is based on finding compromise and consensus. And these are therefore the process might take longer than in case of individual countries, but we make sure that in the end everybody can live with the agreement and can accept it and can feel being part of the discussion and part of the agreement, and that's also unique. And this is what we are trying to promote also beyond the borders of the European Union itself. European Union, of course, is trying to promote standards and regulations, not only in technological sense, but also ecological and social ones, which we believe are good for not only for us, but for our partners as well. And one element that we are pointing out quite often is that despite the problems the European Union is facing, we must not forget that we have a global responsibility. Being a global player, we must not be too obsessed with our internal issues, which sometimes we tend to do. And we have to be aware of the fact that there is a world outside of the European Union's borders, the world that needs an active and engaged European Union, and the world that wants to see European Union playing an active role. And the European Union was able to prove its ability to play this role in the south of the European Union, in the central and eastern part of Europe, and we have other areas to look to, namely the Balkans, Turkey, our eastern partners, but also beyond. So let me refer to these regions briefly. Of course, the Western Balkans is the unfinished business of the European Union. European Union offered clear vision to the region of the Western Balkans 10 years ago in Thessaloniki. The vision is called full membership, and we started enlargement program. The main goal of it is to promote reforms and to support stabilization of that part of the world. I am among those who believe that enlargement is, if not the most successful, then definitely one of the most successful policies of the European Union. And the attractiveness of the European Union itself has been the most effective tool that makes the EU's transformative power work. European Union is not enforcing transformation because we cannot impose political will and political courage upon the political leaders in these countries. But what we can do and what we are trying to do is first to offer credible perspective, second to provide support, including financial support, and third to lead by example, as I said already. But of course, the key role, key responsibility lies with the partners themselves, with the political leaders. And they have to, first and foremost, fulfill the commitments. That means to implement the reforms, political reforms, economic reforms, social reforms. They have to engage in good regional cooperation, because this is a key. It's difficult to believe that you could be a part of wider family of nations if you have problems to communicate with your immediate neighbors. So that's the best proof of your ability to become part of the European family, is to be a constructive partner in your region. And regional ownership of these processes is something that the European Union strongly encourages. So the key of the enlargement process is to understand that having first good neighborly relations, second stable democratic institutions, third functioning market economy, and fourth sound legal system is not something you do or they do to please the bureaucrats in Brussels, but it's important, vitally important for the functioning of these countries themselves. So it's not about moving your countries to Europe, but building the European standards, European Union standards in these countries. And this is then rewarded by granting the membership in the European Union. Of course, what needs to be clearly here and present in order to encourage this painful effort is a tangible perspective of membership. And this is something the European Union has to do to keep our partners mobilized and believing in this goal. And I dare to say that this vision is working. I mean, the incoming membership, full membership of Croatia in the European Union is the best proof of the functionality of this model. At the same time, Montenegro is well on track, and the country has no dilemmas about what needs to be done, and the issues or the problems they are facing or the challenges they are meeting are of technical nature, but not of fundamental or philosophical nature. And obviously, Belgrade-Pristina dialogue and agreement between Belgrade and Pristina that was signed in April is a major success, and this success would not be achievable without the European perspective for both partners. So this is a very good proof that we must not underestimate the attractiveness and the soft power of the European Union. I see EU as a sort of a magnet, which is exercising its pulling effect on the countries in the region. The closer you get to the magnet, of course, the more you are attracted by this power. We have countries in the region of the Western Balkans that still have some problems. I'm referring to Bosnia and Herzegovina, because if I have to explain it in the most easiest terms, it's like, for me, it's like the country does not feel the pulling effect of the European Union. And what we need to do is somehow to help push the country closer so that the effect will start working. And we have other two countries I want to refer to, Macedonia and Albania, which are there, they feel the effect, they are moving, but somehow they hit a roadblock, and they are trying to get over the roadblock. In one case, it's the name. In the other case, it's internal division among the major political forces. But the trend is clear, and we shall help them to get over this roadblock. So, regardless of all the voices about the fatigue of enlargement, there is no fatigue. As long as there are reforms, as long as there are governments who are committed and future-looking, the results are immediately visible. There is another part of the world where European Union is exercising its attractiveness and its influence, and these are the countries of former Soviet Union, countries on the eastern borders of the European Union, the 6 countries, Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia. We see these countries also in the category of unfinished business, in a way that these countries are our direct neighbors. They are our key business partners. They are very important producers and transporters of energy resources, and they are also very important security actors along our eastern borders. And therefore, we want to help transforming their societies, again, without any impositions. But we are offering them a program which I believe is attractive enough, namely closer political ties, political association through the association agreement, gradual integration into European economic space through the deep and comprehensive free trade area agreements. Third, greater mobility for citizens with a continuous abolishment of visa requirements. And fourth, financial and technical support for their reforms. So it's in everybody's interest, and I'm sure about it, to have these countries being politically stable, economically prosperous, and having a legal system that is as close to European standards as possible. And the predictability in our neighborhood, again, is in the interest of the European Union, of those countries, but also in the interest of Russia, who is bordering these countries from the other side. With regard to the end goal of this program, I want to say that the membership in the European Union, full membership, is not guaranteed, but it's not excluded either. So it's in their hands. It basically depends on how committed they are, and the outcome of this program will be what these countries make out of it. We shall have a stock-taking exercise later this year at the summit meeting in Vilnius. 3 countries will be in a position to confirm that they finished the negotiation on association agreements and DCFTA, and Ukraine, if everything works well, we will be even able to sign this agreement. So this will be a very positive sign about the development of these countries. Another region where European Union plays an active role is our southern neighborhood. There are many challenges the countries of the European Union southern neighborhood are facing. And here I want to say that the Arab Spring proved to be, in a way, a turning point in a way how European Union was looking at these countries and dealing with these countries. And it caused us to rethink our philosophy, our policies, and our programs when it comes to these countries. To be blunt, I have to say that quite often member states of European Union and other international players were tolerant to lack of or to democratic deficiencies in these countries in exchange for what was believed stability that these countries provided. But it was the citizens of these countries that made it very clear that what they need is greater openness and greater democratization of their societies. And the European Union reacted with full support to this project or to this plea, and we started engaging much more with the voices that were on the periphery before that, such as civil society, young generation, media. We are offering our assistance in many ways, and the picture currently is, as always, mixed. We had the democratic elections in Egypt, Libya, Algeria, and Jordan, but in other countries of the region, we still see fundamental lack of progress when it comes to basic freedoms, such as freedom of assembly, association, freedom of expression, media freedom, or the rights of women. So these issues need to be addressed. But we believe that the European Union needs to maintain its engagement in this part of the world, because many of these countries want to get as close as possible to the European Union, and we have a strong interest in their peace and prosperity, so we see our engagement as a win-win solution. Here, I believe that EU's action should be guided by two principles. First, the democratic transition has to be homegrown and certainly not imposed from outside. And second, we should be ready to provide our support if so asked. The engagement of the European Union in our southern neighborhood could be defined by 3M. The first M is money. EU is providing more than 540 million euro in additional funding for the years 2011-2013. The second M means mobility. European Union entered in mobility partnership agreements with a number of these countries, particularly Morocco, and is in negotiations with Tunisia and Jordan. And the third M is market access. And here, the goal is gradual integration of these countries in the extended European Economic Zone. And here the negotiations are going on again with Morocco, Tunisia, and Jordan. So this region is different, the countries are different, therefore it requires different approach from our side. And this is where the famous more for more principle comes into play. That means the European Union is going to support politically, but also financially, those countries which are demonstrating stronger willingness to reform themselves. But the European Union is also actively engaged in other parts of the world, beyond the direct neighborhood of the European Union. Let me mention just a few examples. Iran, of course, the European Union and namely the High Representative Catherine Ashton is leading the 3+3 talks dealing with the disputable nuclear program of Iran. Afghanistan, European Union is a key donor, providing development assistance that together with member states and the European Commission represents more than 10 billion euros since 2002. European Union is part of the ISAF mission, which is active in the country on the basis of the Security Council resolution, and EU member states contribute more than 28,000 troops to the mission. And of course, there is an European Union's police mission, EUPOL, that is helping to train the police forces in Afghanistan. Mali, the European Union just launched the EU training mission, whose aim is to improve Malian armed forces capacities, and the European Union recently organized and hosted a donors conference to help Mali, and that conference, which took place on May 15th in Brussels, generated more than 3.2 billion euros to help that country. Horn of Africa, again, the EU's naval operation Atalanta that helps prevent and combat acts of piracy has proved to be a big success because we've managed to decrease piracy by 95%. And so set free the major naval road, also because of the fact that 90% of the EU's trade is conducted by the sea. And we have also trained 3,000 Somali troops, which is about a third of their armed forces. So these are just a few examples, but the list of EU's activities is quite long, and I believe you would agree with me that it's well meant and it's positive, and I also believe it's well received. When it comes to my country and our particular contribution to the efforts of the European Union, I'd like to stress that Slovakia still has a fresh memory of its own successful transition from a post-communist to a democratic country and from a centrally planned economy into the market economy. So our experience is fresh, it's authentic, and it's positive. And we are offering this experience to the countries which are willing to follow our example and to become what we have become. As recently as 1997, Slovakia was named Black Hole in the Heart of Europe by Madeleine Albright, and nowadays we are seen as a truly success story in the European Union, and we want to inspire and encourage all those who are willing to follow our example by sharing our expertise and our experience, and of course by stressing, which is obvious, that Slovakia acts without any bias and without any hidden agenda. So we are trying to be active and visible in the Western Balkans, in the east of Europe, but also our diplomacy has played a very active role for more than 2 decades in Cyprus, bringing the two communities together, and at times being the only channel of communication between the two communities. Together with Netherlands, we have been co-chairing the task force of the Community of Democracies in Tunisia, helping the local authorities to build the democratic structures and functioning administrative capacities. In Slovakia, we are present militarily through our troops as part of the ISAF mission, but also through our development projects. And here at the United Nations, Slovakia's engagement is most visible through our support of the security sector reform, which was our flagship initiative at the times when we served at the Security Council, 2006, 2007. And since then, we've advocated to broaden up this concept in regions which are trying to cope with either aftermath of conflicts or to prevent deterioration of other crises. So we've initiated a UN-wide discussion on the security sector reform. We organized several seminars in South Africa, Argentina, Indonesia, and Kenya. There will be soon released the second comprehensive report of the UN Secretary General on security sector reform, and we are going to promote this agenda even further because we believe that the democratic transformation of military forces and police is a very important contribution to the peace and stability in the world. So this is my introduction of what we believe European Union is doing for promoting peace and democracy in the world. The main lessons learned from what we do are, first, that the principle of the partner's country ownership is the key. That's really important. Namely, the model which would be imposed from outside is not sustainable, and it will fall apart as soon as the foreign players are out of the country. European Union understands that it cannot be an island of stability in an ocean of conflicts, and therefore it's in our interest to contribute to stabilizing the regions beyond the immediate borders of the European Union. We know that if the European Union wants to successfully contribute to stability and prosperity, we have to be able to listen to our partners and to react to their requests and to their needs rather than to dictate for them and decide for them. And we have to work as a team together with our partners. So well-functioning international cooperation is indispensable in many areas. And here, European Union should be seen and would like to be seen as one of the players, because there are so many issues, either regional conflicts or the global conflicts such as climate change, that cannot be resolved by means or by forces of one international player only. And here the United Nations is well played as a central international institutions to lead all this effort and use the capacities and experience and potential of the European Union. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. It was extremely interesting, and I must say, as a fellow European myself, I felt very encouraged by your points on the achievements of the EU in its neighborhood and also beyond. And so I believe that these are issues that we can now discuss perhaps more in depth with our participants. We're going to have a Q&A. I think we have something like around 30 minutes ahead of us. So please feel free to ask questions on these issues relating to European foreign policy, and you just wave your hand and ask for the floor. Before I start, let me just say, perhaps I just would like to start from the end, because you mentioned your own experience of transition, and you ended up your speech by saying we should listen to our partners. And when you look back at the transition in Slovakia, do you think that things could have gone a different way? Do you think that you managed to avoid real difficulties and managed to overcome them, or do you think that things could have gone better? Do you have a reflection on how things went, and how do you see this could be applied to, let's say, the Western Balkans? And precisely when you say the EU should listen more to its partners, you actually did not say more. You said you should listen to its partner. Do you think the EU should listen more? Do you think its dialogue is going well? Do you think things could go also differently?
Well, speaking about Slovakia's example, I'd like to point out to two crucial elements. The first one, clear set of rules and clear perspective of the membership. And second is the regional example, because Slovakia lost time because of our problems with meeting democratic standards, and therefore we were held back compared to our neighbors. And this is exactly what helped us to start up and to proceed with double speed, to catch up with our neighbors, because we were seeing that we are losing the perspective of joining the European Union. And we knew that it's not because of the lack of capabilities of our citizens, but it was about the deficiencies on the side of the government. And this regional example works very, very well and should be used also in the Western Balkans, because the countries of the Western Balkans are watching very closely who is doing what, and who is progressing and who is not. And I would say that success of one country is the best motivation for the other countries of the region, and therefore the future membership of Croatia is the best proof to all those who are saying that the European Union is not serious with enlargement, that the European Union is coming with additional conditions to prevent enlargement. And after Croatia, it's important that the process continues with Montenegro. I really believe that Serbia and Kosovo should be given clear sign of encouragement at the end of this month, so that no one can question that. And this regional example and understanding that European Union applies the same approach and uses same set of principles and policies with regard to all the countries of the region is extremely important.
Thank you. Maybe we can start with the question.
Yes, are we supposed to identify ourselves?
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Wendy Lewis from the Foundation for Civil Society, and I'd like to press you a little further on Kosovo, if I may, and also on the role of the NGOs. Nadace Občanská společnost was in Slovakia when you were being set back by your own government. It was frankly our office in Bratislava where the headquarters were, in the help of private U.S. foundations to get out the vote, et cetera, et cetera. So I know you're very well respected by all the NGOs in Slovakia, so I'd like you to expand a bit on that. But how do you see, given your enormous support for the Kosovo, for the Pristina-Belgrade conversations, but you still haven't recognized Kosovo? Could you please expand on that?
I'm thinking if there will be one public discussion I'm going to have without this question being asked. This is the most frequent question I get. Slovakia's parliament adopted a resolution against the recognition of independence of Kosovo, not as an act of hostility towards Kosovo, but rather as a reaction to the way this independence was declared and achieved, expressing strong support for these acts being based either on the Security Council resolution or on the agreement between the parties involved. With both of these elements were missing in this case. But at the same time, with the same resolution, our parliament stressed that we see the future of the region of the Western Balkans in the European Union, and the parliament tasked the government to work and promote this European future. And that's what we do. So we have already defined lots of practical space within the borders or limits given by our formal position, which, as I said, is not hostile. We are engaging with the partners from Kosovo in many ways. We are diplomatically present on the ground, issuing visas, receiving delegations, offering our know-how, our technical assistance, having discussions, bilateral discussions with them. So they are not taken out of our approach towards the region. Plus Slovakia, together with other 4 countries of the European Union who have not recognized Kosovo, has always voted for European Council conclusions which are promoting European perspective. For Kosovo right now, the issue on the agenda is the Stabilization and Association Agreement. For Kosovo, right now on the agenda is Kosovo's membership in the Development Bank of the Council of Europe. So all the activities that are bringing closer the European perspective and are helping to address the economic and social needs of Kosovo are enjoying support from our side, because we don't want to see a black hole in the middle of the Western Balkans, as same way as we didn't like being seen as black hole in the middle of Central Europe ourselves. And this brings me to your second question about the role of the NGOs in our society. We have our own authentic experience that shows that NGOs can play a decisive, instrumental, vital role for the transformation of the society, because it was our NGOs who helped mobilize our society the moment when our immediate neighbors and our closest partners, Czech Republic, Poland and Hungary, were invited to start negotiations on future EU membership, and Slovakia was left aside, and they really started a civic campaign that, as a result, produced the outcome of the democratic elections that brought in power a government that was strongly pro-EU. And this was also a very strong pressure from our civic society and from our NGOs to make sure that this government, which was very complicated, is really fully focused on catching up, in which we ultimately succeeded. NGOs are playing a very important role as watchdogs of respect for democratic standards nowadays, and I really believe that they are instrumental for transparency, accountability of public institutions. And I would also say that we've become exporters of the NGO's role in the region, and we have offered our know-how to several countries in the Balkans, Serbia in particular. I would say that Slovakia's NGOs have played a very important role in the fall of regime of Slobodan Milošević. Our NGOs were active in Ukraine, in Georgia, and in other parts of the world. Again, respecting the principles I just declared, no imposition, but friendly advice whenever we are asked to provide.
Thank you. Nicholas Dungan from the Atlantic Council. I'd like to go back to the question of enlargement, if I could. The European Union has 2 completely unique aspects among global polities. One is obviously the concept of successful shared sovereignty, which doesn't really exist anywhere else. NATO, for example, is completely different. Right. Secondly, it's expanding. And now we don't expect a large number of new states in the United States or provinces in Canada or even of Russia, right? But as you said, this movement towards enlargement is there, and it's actually unique in the case of the EU. One country which I don't think you mentioned is Turkey. Another one which is, as Turkey wants to come in, another one which may want to go out is Britain. And I wonder whether you could comment on the following, particularly in the concept of the upcoming TTIP negotiations. Does it make sense now that Europe is an established entity, that it does have its soft power, despite the accusations of democratic deficit and all the rest, to really start thinking of formalizing concentric circles? The middle circle would be the Eurozone or something like it. It might not be based on currency, but it would be the hardcore members. Then you'd have those coming in and coming out. Could be Britain on the way out, Turkey on the way in, the former Soviet Union states that you mentioned. And then perhaps even larger a form of association which could be roughly equivalent to the Council of Europe or the observers of the Council of Europe, which would include the TTIP and would extend the soft power of the European Union. Can that be done without formalizing these different concentric circles? And does it make sense, given the state of the European Union today, to even think about trying to put the concentric circles in place? Thanks.
Thank you. When it comes to Turkey, well, I'm of the firm conviction that we shall respect our own principles. That means the country that expresses its interest to join the European Union, adheres to the principles and values, and meets the conditions, should be given the right to join. There should be no politically motivated blockage. And with regard to the concentric circles, I would say the multi-speed Europe is a reality. We have several categories of the member states of the European Union, because we have those who are members of the EU, then members of Schengen, members of the Eurozone. So we already have no homogeneity among the members of the European Union, and this will be a reality for years to come. But it's important that we do not create different categories of members by our decisions, political decisions. So I am not in favor of putting different countries in different categories, being full members or associated members, unless this is their will. And I really believe that, of course, the best model for the EU would be that all the member states are in the same category. But the second best is the one as we are having right now. It's the free decision of those countries not to join Eurozone or Schengen zone for these or that reasons right now. But it's important that we keep the options for them open to join at a later stage. That means we must not close the Eurozone and make it an elite club, because those who might be willing to join later must still have the chance to do so. That's, I really believe, it's important. So right now, if we see the European Union as a train, so our speed must not be defined by the slowest wagon, but at the same time, the locomotive must not disappear from the rest of the train as well. That's my understanding of the role of the European Union.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. We'll come back to the questions in the front, but we have a question in the Ambassador Bajowski, please.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you to IPI for another amazing event and the good timing. Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, it was a wonderful statement. In preparing this, I read your statement last year in Tokyo at the Japan Press Club, where you also had a very strong narrative. And this brings me to my first question. I asked the same question, by the way, 1 month ago to your colleague, the Prime Minister of Latvia, and 2 months ago to Mr. Barroso. This is a country which loves narrative, and I've been serving here for 4 years in good cooperation with my very dear colleagues of Slovakia and other European countries. Isn't this country European narrative strong enough? Because yesterday we had here Richard Haas, one of the big thinkers of American foreign politics, and Richard Haas is deeply convinced that Europe is on the way down and under still, and there's no growth, and we are getting too old. So do you think is the narrative strong enough? Question number one. Question number two, I'm very short now. Soon I will have the honor to start my new function as Austrian ambassador to Denmark. And I know that you and our Vice Chancellor and Foreign Minister Michael Spindlecker and other small and medium-sized countries are very strong allies, because in this country, and IPI does not tire to point this out, I'm very grateful for this, in this country there's always this wrong perception there are only 2 or 3 member states, Germany of course and France, who really guide the European Union. This is not true, and you are a very eloquent example of how much also small and medium-sized countries can do, and the recent economic spring forecast shows what a remarkable role you're playing with your growth, and you mentioned 2014 you will probably head back for 3% growth. So what is your second question, and end of my short statement, what is your perception, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, what role can small and medium-sized countries play in the European Union? Thank you.
European narrative is as strong as the European Union's performance is. Of course, right now we are weakened, but there is no reason to be, I would say, I mean, there is no reason to worry about the European Union. The European Union has a strong potential to get from and over these current problems. And right now, as I said, one can see what was the state of our discussion 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, and where we are now. And we are really now looking into the future. And an illustrative fact is also that when our leaders are meeting now, they are not spending 48 hours without food and without sleep to try to produce a good message for their citizens, but we are back to normal, and the European Councils are again ending in normal civilized hours. That already shows that we are out of the hot stage of the crisis. But obviously we will be even more attractive when the economic performance of the European Union will be more impressive. And there are countries who are associated with the European Union through the European Economic Area, for example, such as Norway, and for them, the attractiveness of the European Union goes up and down depending on the performance of the European Union. So the narrative is here, is strong, but of course it will be strong at the moment we will put the crisis behind us. And everything is in our hands. I mean, there is no reason to complain about anyone else. We have to prove that we are serious with the measures we have decided to undertake, and we will implement our instruments. But of course, 5 years ago, EU was probably more attractive than it's now. But I'm sure that in 3 years' time, will be again far more attractive than what's today. And the role of small and medium-sized countries. Well, the majority of EU member states, same as majority of UN member states, are the countries which are considered to be small and medium size. And it's not about the size, it's about your policies, it's about your responsibility, it's about how you behave inside and outside of your country. And we've seen numbers of examples about small countries creating big problems or being global trendsetters in promoting noble agendas, and small countries being followed by big and large countries. So it's really about the vision and about the decisiveness, would I say, resolve to promote good policies. And the European Union works, as you know, as an alliance for interests rather than against anyone. And there are different issues that put around themselves a number of countries who can identify themselves with these issues. But the good thing is, as I said, that this temporary alliances never worked against somebody else, but they are here to promote some ideas. So I really believe that size doesn't matter in this regard.
Thank you. Question on the left.
Perhaps I should express common interest here because I work with Miroslav in a number of functions in the European Union. My question to you is the following. You have served in a number of capacities, special representative in the External Action Service, where we were colleagues for a while, yes. And now you're in a obviously senior ministerial position in the Slovak government. In the last few years, you've seen the development of the External Action Service from the inside and from the outside. Could you say where you think progress has been made in terms of projecting a more effective European foreign policy, and where you think there's much more to be done? And I'm thinking of this in the context of where you have a number of member states, the larger member states with diverse interests. Not all of them invest as wholly, perhaps, in European foreign and security policy as the Slovak government. So where are the limitations? What can be done more effectively and efficiently? And what progress have we made over the last 3 or 4 years?
I consider the decision to create an European Union's foreign service, which is called External Action Service, as a brilliant and very important idea for several reasons. Of course, it was very difficult for our partners from outside of the European Union to understand who does what and what's the difference between European Council, European Commission, Council of Europe, European Parliament, so on and so forth. So this famous quote about Europe's phone number was really present here. Creation of the External Action Service gives, first of all, visibility to the foreign policy of the European Union. Now you have the structure, you have names, you know who is responsible for what. Second, it gives the sense of ownership to the member states with regard to the European Foreign Service, because member states are delegating their staff. 30% of the External Action Service staff are temporary agents delegated by the member states. So it's a different relationship. And third, it gives the feeling of responsibility towards the member states by the service. Now you know that you are not only representing the institutions but also the member states, and therefore you have to act so that you are a credible representative of the member states. I think that's very important. Now, this less than 3 years of the existence of and performance of the External Action Service prove that it's a very relevant foreign policy instrument of the European Union. It now has around 140 European Union delegations, which around the world, which are now representing the member states, who are acting as primus inter pares, speaking on behalf of member states, coordinating meeting of member states, so playing pivotal role in really strengthening of the European Union's foreign policy cohesion on the ground. What needs to be done now? We have to reflect what could be done better with regard to the structure, with regard to the representation, the visibility. One of the questions, for example, that every single foreign ministry in the world has one minister and several deputy ministers, while the External Action Service that represents 27, 28 member states of the European Union only has one political representative in the face of the High Representative, and it's impossible for her or for him to be wherever European Union should be present. So I would be advocating for a political deputy or deputies, as it is the standard model in foreign services of the world. Then the clear division of labor between the External Action Service and European Commission is also important. The human factor comes into play as well. The clear understanding of the role of European External Action Service and the member states. It's not always here. I was the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the first time when we were finalizing the Lisbon Treaty, and I was part of the discussions among the foreign ministers when it was said clearly that are we all aware that the moment we will have the High Representative and the External Action Service, our role as individual foreign ministers of individual member states will decrease, because we will have to step back in order to put forward our EU High Representatives? And the answer was clearly yes. But the moment the situation, arrived, not everyone was willing to step back and to let the European Union speaking on behalf of all our member states. So the human factor is here, but this is a work in progress, and I see the future European Union Foreign Service being more and more represented by joint diplomatic missions, where the member states, rather than having independent embassies, will be sending their diplomats to the European Union's delegations, 1 or 2 diplomats who will be covering for particular interests of that particular country, but the political reporting will be done by the External Action Service, by the European Union, and issues where the EU's position is united will be represented by one European voice. So I really believe this as a beginning of a process that will fundamentally change the European Union's foreign policy and foreign service.
How do you see this in a UN context, in the this kind of more integration of European representation?
UN is specific, and we see that the level of coordination, not only at UN but at the other international organizations, is different and is more limited compared to the level of cooperation and coordination in individual member states. And here I would like to see this in a context of the overall discussion about the UN reform. Probably this will have to fit into the progress of the discussion about the reform of the UN as such.
Thanks a lot. We have questions. Maybe we can take 2 questions. On the left, we have 2 questions there. Beatrice, and there's another one right there.
Thank you. My name is Miloš. I'm from Mission of Montenegro. While I would really want to ask you about chairmanship of the main committees in the UN, I will stick to the today's topic. You were talking about the unfinished business of the European Union in our part, in the Western Balkans. And particularly, I have two examples in mind, Bosnia and Macedonia, and you also talked about Albania. how do you perceive the role of the EU? While certainly it has been a positive one, do you think that in Bosnia, particularly and in Macedonia, EU should take a more proactive and a more responsible role, because these countries have been stagnant in their progress towards the European Union with the functionality of the Bosnia and the name issue of Macedonia? And you were talking about the politically motivated blockage of countries on the path towards EU. And when I say this, I have in mind also an example of Serbia and Kosovo, where the dialogue was initiated, but one might argue that this dialogue also came late. Maybe it should have been started earlier. So I would like to hear your perspective about the EU's role in Bosnia and in Macedonia, and also because you are so familiar with our region and you know it very well, from in your opinion, what can be done internally in Bosnia and Macedonia? Maybe that Macedonia starts the negotiation process, that they open negotiation, and then afterwards, maybe while they're negotiating, this issue with Greece could be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we take the second
Good.
question.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for your enlightening presentation. My name is Eduardo Ulibarri. I am the permanent representative of Costa Rica to the UN. For small countries with democratic institutions and open economies, such as mine, the strength and the dynamism of the European Union is very, very important. And in this regard, we are very happy that you show such an optimism, at least in overcoming the immediate challenges that the Union has faced. But there is some concern about the medium and long-term future of the European Union, both as a political, but especially as an economic partner of countries outside Europe. And it is the degree that you would be able, as a union, to undertake some major structural reforms, not only in the Union itself, but especially in some countries, meaning by that structural reforms in the labor market, the financial system. You mentioned the energy sector, which is also very important, and the common agricultural policy that for us of our countries is very important as well. So looking into the near future, how do you foresee the possibilities of undertaking these challenges? Thank you.
Thank you. First on these two countries of the Western Balkans, without going very much into details, because I'm not sure everybody's interested. In case of Macedonia, I do think that the European Union should be more actively involved. The fact is that the country's progress has been blocked because of an unresolved name issue. And the fact is also that the European Union has accepted the leading role of the UN, namely the Ambassador Nimitz. But since this is an issue that involves one EU member state and one EU candidate state, I would prefer to see European Union playing a leading role in resolving this problem. Same way as the European Union has taken over and started playing leading role in dealing with the Serbia-Kosovo issue, for example. I really think that issues that touch directly upon the European interests and European backgrounds and European territory should be managed and should be seeing European Union in the driver's seat. And it's in everyone's interest, the country itself, the region, and the European Union, that Macedonia will be able to start accession negotiations so that we will, so to say, will be kept busy with a positive agenda. We know that if there is no positive agenda, then people would come with different agenda, which is not as positive. And there is no better agenda than European integration agenda for the countries of the region. Bosnia and Herzegovina has inherited extremely complicated constitutional structure, whose main goal at the time of its completion was to stop the war. And it succeeded in this regard. But now we need to see a functioning country, and for this, this structure is extremely heavy. But to change it, is met with suspicion and resistance by the local players because they got used to the existing model, which is far from ideal, but at least they know what they have, and they are a bit afraid that they might be losing even as little as they are having right now. So that's one problem. Second problem is that the international community that has invested so heavily and has been present so heavily in Bosnia and Herzegovina has no united view about what we want to see in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, and we cannot demand changes in Bosnia and Herzegovina unless we know what changes are we demanding. That's the problem. There are several major stakeholders, United States, Turkey, Russian Federation, European Union. So I would suggest that first these stakeholders sit together and agree on what Bosnia and Herzegovina they want to see, and then they come back to Bosnia and Herzegovina and start talking to local players, the three constituent nations, with one voice, which is not the case now. And as long as this will not be the case, I'm very skeptical about the progress we can achieve here. So it's our responsibility. Bosnia and Herzegovina is really current Bosnia and Herzegovina is a creation of the international community, and therefore we must we must continue playing our role, not by decising and enforcing political processes, but by guiding the country and helping political leaders to take over their responsibility. With regard to the future of the European Union, yes, issues I was referring to in my presentations were the issues of immediate agenda and immediate threats to the European economy. And as I said, European Union is well on track of putting those behind. But there are other issues of medium and long term that are very relevant when it comes to European Union's global competitiveness and the European Union standing as a global player. And of course, well, the international environment is changing, and we see emergence of new, extremely highly competitive players, and European Union will have to adjust to this situation if it wants to stay competitive. European Union has to sustain extremely ambitious social program, but you need economic performance to be able to do so. European Union is introducing a number of very important standards in a number of areas, such as environment, for example, or the protection of labor force. But again, this must not go against the competitiveness of European producers. So these are important and relevant issues which European Union is thinking about, because when we see the projections about the economic growth of the United States, of the European Union, and of other countries, some other countries of the world, in Asia, China, India, or Brazil, then you see that unless some structural reforms are made, we might see a different picture of global economy and global players in 10, 15, 20 years from now. You mentioned some of the issues that are clearly on the agenda, like common agricultural policy. I mentioned the social system. We will be forced to do so. One of the issues, of course, will be to explain this to our citizens and to make them understand this, because in many cases it will mean that we will have to go back from the standards that have become a routine or everyone has gotten used to. But again, European Union has such a huge potential, such strong capacities that I wouldn't doubt about its ability to adjust to the new demands and new challenges on the global scene here. But it's here. We cannot run away from this.
Thanks a lot. I think we have perhaps time for one more question, so we'll take it and then we will conclude the discussion. Thanks a lot.
I'm Roma Stibrovi, president of NGO Sustainability. The US and China just had an informal summit. The one thing that was being watched is whether the two giant polluters would accept limitations to their greenhouse gas emissions. The EU has, some of the countries have taken extraordinary measures. Germany with 80% by 2050 of renewable energy, the Scandinavian countries 75. What role can the EU play in saving our planet in this regard?
I happen to be my country's ambassador in Japan at the time of Kyoto Conference 1997, and I dare to say that there would be no Kyoto Protocol if there was not for the European Union. But climate changes and greenhouse effect is something that requires participation of all relevant players. And we are not there. So we cannot introduce the highest possible standards in certain selected parts of the planet only and ignore them in other parts of the planet. And this is where we are right now. And we remember Copenhagen summit, which was a full failure, unfortunately. Apparently, whatever we think about it, we cannot speed up certain things. We might be as convinced as we are about the need of these measures, but we need to convince our partners and those who are part of the process and eventually part of the problem. So we have to continue persuading our partners and those who are now major polluters and to make them aware of their responsibility. I hear their arguments about this being meant as an instrument to slow down their economic progress right now. And they are also telling us that when you went through the era of dynamic economic growth and industrialization, no one was trying to slow you down by imposing environmental and other standards. So why are you doing this to us? We need to sit down again and again and to discuss and make sure that there is no hidden agenda and make sure that there is a shared responsibility for the future of this planet. And it's not going to be immediate, it's not going to be easy, but I see no other way.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you for this very open conversation, for your very thoughtful and honest comments on the state of the European Union and its achievements in its cooperation with its partners. So we wish you very good luck. Good luck to you and to your fellow foreign ministers when you meet in Brussels and Luxembourg, and we hope to see you very soon to continue the conversation in New York. Please join me in thanking Miroslav Lajčák.
Thank you very much. Thank you.